Hello, hello, hello. If you're a gamer, you may have heard of the recently announced competitor to the Nintendo Switch known as the Valve Steam Deck. Well, if you haven't, then it's basically the only competitively priced handheld PC on the market, or more accurately, coming to the market since only pre-orders are available. But nonetheless, using the information we already have, which is quite a bit, we're going to be taking a deep dive into everything Steam Deck in a new series I like to call
Tech News Deep Dive.
That was bad. First, the main concern for many of us, price. The base model Steam Deck is $399, and it comes with 64 gigabytes of eMMC storage. Now, that may not sound like much, and it really isn't, but it's worth noting that all Steam Deck models do come with an SD card slot. The next option up has a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and it sells for $529. It also comes with a carrying case and a Steam Community Profile Bundle, whatever that means. The last model, at 512 gigabytes of storage and $649, also has etched anti-glare glass and an exclusive virtual keyboard theme. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk specs. It has a 1280 by 800 1610 aspect ratio, by the way, 7-inch IPS touchscreen with a 60 Hz refresh rate and 400 nits typical brightness, which basically means it'll be fine for most use even outside. It has a 4-core, 8-thread AMD CPU at up to 3.5 GHz, an AMD GPU with 8 compute units at 1.6 GHz max, and 16 gigabytes LPDDR5 RAM. Has a 40 watt-hour battery that they say can last for about up to 8 hours of light use, who knows how long while gaming, and here's an interesting bit to do with the storage. So, they does have a socketable 2230 M.2 module, and while they say it's not meant for user replacement, that doesn't mean that you can't. It shouldn't be that hard, although we don't know until we'll see the hardware. Now let's talk about the Steam Deck's integrated controller. It's mostly standard. It has your standard 2 sticks, it has buttons, it has a D-pad, it has triggers, it has bumpers, but you also, for your money, get 4 back buttons and 2 pressure-sensitive trackpads, and the pressure-sensitive trackpads are actually right below the sticks. So they decided to put the D-pad and the buttons to the left and right of the sticks. Which, I don't know, it's a little weird, but I can see it not being too hard to get used to, and probably has some sort of good ergonomic reason. As for other features, you get dual microphones, stereo speakers, Wi-Fi 5, and Bluetooth 5. One of the most interesting things about the Steam Deck is that it's running a variant of Arch Linux known as SteamOS. SteamOS 2.0 was found on Valve's old, dead line of Steam machines, but SteamOS 3.0 seems to be much better, just from what we have, and have a much improved and nicer looking Steam Big Picture mode, or I guess technically Little Picture mode in the case of the Steam Deck. Now, you may be thinking, Linux doesn't run games, and you would be partially correct. Now, while Linux doesn't have very many native games, Valve has made a software called Proton that allows you to run many Windows games with very little overhead. Actually, nearly all. And the only reason it doesn't run the rest of them is basically because of anti-cheat software. And Valve is, at the moment, working with the makers of this anti-cheat software to fix this issue. So you may get nearly universal Steam library coverage on Linux. How does it compare to its competitors like the Switch, the GPD Win 3, and the Aya Neo? Well, first, weight. The Switch is 400 grams, or about 0.9 pounds. Next up is the GPD Win 3 at 550 grams, or 1.2 pounds. The Aya Neo is 650 grams, or 1.4 pounds. And the Steam Deck, topping them all, is 669 grams or about 1.5 pounds. But does it matter? If you're the kind of person that complains about the G502, maybe. But for anyone who can lift a 20-pound weight without dying, it's not that big of a deal. For raw processing power, it's really split between the Steam Deck and the Aya Neo. The Aya Neo having a mostly equivalent CPU, but we can't say for sure about the GPU until benchmarks come out for the Steam Deck. The GPD Win 3 definitively lags behind because of its very weak Intel Xe graphics, but it still takes out the Switch, which was outdated when it launched 5 years ago, and has still not gotten a real hardware refresh. As for features, it's between the Steam Deck and the Switch. The Steam Deck has extremely customizable controls, assuming of course that it uses Steam input, which is not a hard assumption to make. While the Switch has the ever infamous Joy-Cons, capable of playing gimmicky games, but not of actually being a good or reliable gamepad. And as mentioned before, SteamOS is a fully featured Linux distro, while SwitchOS or whatever is just a console OS. Next up is price. So the Steam Deck is reasonably priced at $400 for the base model. The Nintendo Switch is about $350 for, I think, the Switch Pro, which is basically a Switch with a slightly better screen. The Aya Neo and the GPD Win 3 are both priced around the $900 to $1,000 mark, so I think it's clear that for the added processing power without the price, the Steam Deck is superior. But of course, until we get real hardware reviews and benchmarks, we don't know exactly how good or bad the Steam Link might be. So until then, this has been
Tech News Deep Dive. That was bad.
Anyways, making these videos is hard, so as always, please like and sub, but most of all, have a nice day.